Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, November 15th, 2007. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. Well, this week we head to sunny Maui, by telephone lines at least, to talk to Garrett Marrero of the Maui Brewing Company. I wanted to talk to Garrett to get some tips on brewing beers like their Maui Gold Summer Ale and their Coconut Porter. And while we were on the line, I got his take on what it's like to jump into the brewing business professionally. Well, if you're new to home brewing and would like to get into the hobby for the first time, check out our website, basicbrewing.com, where you can find archives of our audio and video podcasts and our DVDs to walk you through basic and more advanced brewing techniques. Well, at the time I'm putting together this show, a couple of you have already discovered that the 2008 Brewers Logbooks are here and ready for the purchasing. They went on sale yesterday on the site, and Josh from Las Vegas was the first to get this year's book, and it's on in the mail and on the way there, Josh. Appreciate your support. And for those of you who are not familiar with the logbook, it's a planning calendar and a brewing diary all in one. In the front, you can use the 2-page per month calendar to easily track the progress of your brews. And in the back, there's room for logging the details of 50 brewing sessions. And thanks to those of you who emailed feedback from last year's book, the 2008 Brewers Logbook has improved from last year's, with new fields for details like pre-boil volume and pre-boil gravity, along with spaces for tracking fermentation and lagering times. And there's plenty of room for fermentation and tasting notes on the second page of each batch. So there's 2 pages for each batch that you can log the details of your brew. And you can check out our Brewer's Logbook on basicbrewing.com. Just look for the animated banner at the upper right of the page, or just go to the shop section and click on Books. Also, our low-tech lagering and decoction mashing DVDs are on the way, and they should be here on Friday. So by Monday, hopefully they should be available on the site as well. So look for new DVD combo configurations coming soon. So, okay, there you go. Enough self-promotion there. I usually don't get so commercial at the beginning of the podcast, but I'm all excited about these things, and I've been getting email asking when they're going to be available. So check out the site, and we appreciate your support. I got an email from Brad in the Netherlands who writes, I'm currently residing in Utrecht in the Netherlands. After moving here last year from Maine, I had been home brewing back in the States before I moved and have just started brewing again over here. However, Brad says, the beer supplies are difficult to find in the Netherlands, and I've had to resort to ordering supplies from Belgium. Now, I would assume that there are worse places to get your to get your beer supplies than Belgium, but I guess convenience is a factor. Brad continues, I know you have a lot of international listeners, and I'm wondering if you know of any brewers here in the Netherlands, as well as any good homebrew shops. I've looked for homebrew clubs in the area and have come up empty. I've been able to spread the joy of brewing to one of my Dutch friends. Brad asks, anyone you can put me in touch with to get a brewing group over here? Thanks for any help that you can give. So I'm calling out to our listeners in the Netherlands. Can you help Brad get connected with homebrew supplies and or homebrewing groups? If you'll shoot me an email, I'll forward it. And we thank you for your help in advance. Lyle from Mesa, Arizona writes, I was watching your video on switching beer and bread yeasts. I was wondering, I read somewhere that years ago they used the trub from making beer to make bread. I saw about 1.5 inches of trub at the bottom of my fermenter when I was bottling my pumpkin ale this weekend and was wondering what that would do. Well, sure. I'll bet you could make bread from fermenter yeast with no problem. Steve Wilkes made bread with fresh beer yeast from the packet, so I don't see any reason to think that slightly used beer yeast from the fermenter wouldn't work. You'd probably want to use the middle layer of the yeast to make sure it's relatively trub-free. But, I don't think you need much yeast to make a loaf of bread anyway. So give it a shot. Let us know how it goes. Christian from Hamburg, Germany writes, I just watched your funny podcast about brown glass protecting the beer, and I remembered something I read about 3 years ago. At that time, Beck's introduced in Germany a new lager beer for the first time in a clear glass bottle. And I was wondering about the missing brown glass UV protection and looked it up. And Christian says they claimed their manufacturer had finally produced clear UV protective glass. Well, Christian sent me a link to an article that said a colorless bottle had been developed for Beck's Gold that apparently blocked UV rays. So that article was from June of 2004, so I don't know what the availability of those bottles are today, so I guess it is possible, according to this manufacturer. Greg from Monterey, California writes, I have a good homebrew at a party story. For my housewarming party, I got a case each of Sierra Nevada and Fat Tire in a tub of ice as acceptable mass appeal beers alongside my homebrewed IPA and Belgian Double. As I started smoking the ribs, I had a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale to wet my whistle. During the party, the people who were having my beers would come back for more, saying, is there more of this? I was pleased by the reception of my brews. The next morning, as I cleaned up the mess, I put the remaining bottles back in their cases. There was only one Sierra Nevada missing, the one I drank. My homebrew was the most popular beer of the night. Well, that's great. I love to hear excellent stories like that. Greg's obviously doing something right. Well, speaking of not which, I received a handful of emails from brewers who didn't do something right, at least on one brew day. I called for stories last week, you may remember, about homebrewing experiences gone bad. Steve and I want to put together a show sharing homebrew horror stories and how brewers were able to overcome them or not. We figure it'll be fun, and we can all learn from others' mistakes. But unfortunately, on the same day I posted the podcast last week, Chris Fry had the same thought and asked for similar stories on Tech Talk. The timing was such that I don't think he got the idea from me. I think it was just a weird coincidence that we both seemed to think that it would be a good idea to collect bad homebrewing stories. But anyway, there have been a bunch of stories posted on Tech Talk, and I could cheat, and steal some of those, but I don't want to do that. So if you can think of it, take a minute to send us your story of homebrewing blunders, and we can read them on this podcast. And you can email me directly at james@basicbrewing.com or just use the contact form on basicbrewing.com, and we appreciate your stories in advance. Okay, let's get into our chat with Garrett Marrero from Maui Brewing Company. Ever since I heard about their coconut porter, I've wanted to get some tips and tricks from Garrett on brewing that. Then, when I heard about their Maui Gold Summer Ale with organic Hawaiian honey, cane sugar, and pineapple juice, I knew it was time to place a call. Well, Garrett Marrero, welcome to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thank you, James. Pleasure to be here.
You are all over the place. I get press releases from you all the time, and we heard you on Craft Beer Radio's coverage from GABF, and you are doing a great job of getting the word out there about your beers and about your brewery.
Absolutely. Like I said before, I'm a big fan of shameless self-promotion. I like to have fun and communicate to the world what we're doing over here. Not just making world-class beers, but making something different that most people have never had before. And sharing that with the press is always fun.
Now, we first met you when we were touring Oscar Blues in Lyons, Colorado, and you were checking out the canning line then. And I guess you liked what you saw because now you're brewing beer and putting it in cans. So how's that going for you?
Yeah, it's going really well. We like to think of Oscar Blues as a sister brewery, if you will. The entire staff and crew over at Oscar Blues, we consider family and friends. Dale, I was on the phone with the other day when I was having problems with my canner, and he's helping me troubleshoot. So we've got a great relationship. So we definitely enjoyed them having us in their house to show us the ropes. Canning's going really well. We actually, all of our cans are actually made here in Hawaii. So we have a ball plant over in Oahu that the cans ship over from. So it does make economical sense because it is right here. We don't have to pay ridiculous shipping rates from the mainland, and we can keep more of our money in our local economy here, which is something we are strong supporters of, being a truly, fiercely local company.
That seems to be a really important point of philosophy with your company, because everything that I read about from your company, you talk about using local ingredients and brewing locally, and it's really important to you guys to be a Hawaii brewery.
Absolutely. I mean, from the guy who did our illustrations, the graphic designer, the illustrator, the can production, the brew, all the beer making process, the coconut, the pineapple, everything that can be had from Hawaii is all local. And the reason we say we're fiercely local is because, all too often there are a lot of what we call pseudo-Hawaiian or fake local beers, which anyone who's a strong member of their community can appreciate, but magnified by about the factor of 10 here in Hawaii. We've got a very strong cultural feeling here where something that isn't from here shouldn't be called local. And we believe in making everything here and purchasing everything here that can be purchased here. Just keeping it in our local community and helping all small businesses do better that way. We're in direct competition with a few larger breweries that have been making 100% of their packaged product in the mainland as opposed to any of it here in Hawaii. And, that's a little bit offensive. I understand why they do it, but at the same time, I only ask that people should be allowed to know the true origins of their beer. I don't say that they shouldn't contract brew or make it somewhere else. I just think that it should be something that the average consumer should know where the product comes from.
Right.
Particularly because it costs me almost 100% more to brew here, and that when I have my beer competing against another, a fake local brand on the shelf, there's no way I can compete on cost. So what we've decided to do is just make better beer than they do. And I think the medals that we've won and the way we run our company has just shown that.
It seems to me that making, since you're in the middle of the Pacific, making the beer there on the island rather than importing it would be cheaper, but that's not the case.
Yeah, you would think so. At least for the local markets, it would be. We do get a lot of requests for our beer all around the world, but we haven't started shipping too far yet, just a little to Japan and then throughout the state of Hawaii. It is not so much just the fact that it's made out here; it's that we got to ship in a lot of our ingredients, which some of the other the fake local brands, I should say, have at times criticized me for being irresponsible because I'm shipping in ingredients just to produce them and ship them back out. The flaw in that argument is that I don't ship them back out. 100% of my product stays on the islands. 99.9% of my product stays on the islands. And that's something that, if we choose to export to the mainland, we will still continue to do that. But, what's the biggest portion? You're a brewer yourself. What's the biggest component of the beer you make?
It's water.
Water. Well, if it's not local water and it didn't come from the earth here, then how could it be local? So, that's something for us that we argue. Plus, it's local labor. It's supporting local causes and local community. The pineapple that we get, we just drive the truck down the street to the Maui Land and Pineapple plant. They screw press into a barrel for us, and we pump it into the fermenter. So there's a local feel to our beer that, not only being world class, and it costs money to do that, definitely. But the shipping costs, there are no amber waves of grain on the on Haleakala or anywhere in the islands. So we can't have there's no big malting house to buy from, and hops certainly don't grow in Hawaii very well, at least the varieties that we need. So we do have to bring in some ingredients, but, everyone does from all over. And that's something that the assembly of the final product is something that we believe has to be done here to be local. So, and labor here isn't cheap, I'll tell you that.
Well, you're talking to a bunch of homebrew nerds and geeks, or at least I consider myself a homebrew nerd. And you're kind of living our dream of making beer for a living. How did you get into that?
Well, I largely got into it and it was really a life change for me. I was an investment consulting guy back in the mainland in San Francisco, actually. I was the guy with the three-piece suit, driving the little roadster, that kind of stuff. And I was actually the youngest licensed broker in the state of California and when I first started. And by the time I was 23, I was burnt out. And I had done well for myself, but I just never focused on the important things in life. What I call important now was very different. Back then it was money, growing up with nothing, and parents divorced, and worrying about rent and those types of things. Money was trained into me that that's the most important thing, and that's all I worked for. I found out very quickly that that doesn't make you happy. I know it's counterintuitive because a lot of people would argue the other way, but when I had it, it would just destroyed relationships for me. Was something that I wanted to change, and came to Hawaii on a vacation, my first one in like 5 years, and was at the airport in Maui, and I felt it at the airport. I just knew that this is where I needed to be, and so I went back and pretty much quit my job and figured out how am I going to get over to Maui, and this little restaurant was for sale. They were brewing there already, but really doing nothing with the beer. It was just this kind of running it into the ground, kind of an enterprise, and my then girlfriend and I decided to jump ship and move to Maui and leveraged everything we could and borrowed, to buy the place, and we've created Maui Brewing Company out of what was there before. We both were looking for a change in life and a chance to stake our own claim and be responsible for ourselves. So we took the leap of faith, and fortunately for us, it's worked out. So.
Wow. Well, congratulations. It's kind of hard to imagine you in a three-piece suit. The last time I saw you at GABF, you had a skirt on. So. Yep.
Well, they call them lava-lavas or sarongs. Here in Maui it's a lava-lava, but I guess the mainland we call it a sarong. Usually the tank top and sarong or board shorts. I think a T-shirt is about as dressed up as I get now. Maybe sales calls I might put on a polo, but almost 100% of the time it's logo wear of some sort. So. But slippers are a must. I try not to wear shoes unless I absolutely have to. So I built most of the brewery in slippers, which obviously isn't the safest way to do it, but it's definitely more comfortable.
Now, for aspiring homebrewers out there who are thinking, yeah, I could do that. I know how to brew beer. I know how to brew darn good beer. I could run a brewery. You're not only running a brewery, you're running a restaurant, which, that's kind of double jeopardy. Those are, it seems like to me, two of the most risky business ventures to get into. What kind of advice can you give aspiring brewpub owners out there?
I think, first and foremost, just, if you believe you can do it, that's the most important step. You are going to have people tell you you cannot. They're going to tell you you're crazy or you're full of it, or if you listen to that, then this isn't a game for you. For me, when I first was looking at doing this project, I didn't have most of my friends, most of my family were pretty skeptical. They say, "What do you? You're an investment consultant, you're a broker. What do you know about beer? What do you know about the restaurant business?" And what I knew about that was just that I could do anything I put my mind to, and I believed that so truly. That the execution wasn't that difficult. All of my experience from both of those markets came from consumption side. I knew I loved a good beer. I knew what I wanted out of a restaurant when I went into it, so I try to provide those things to my guests, and they appreciate that feel of it, where it's not a corporate-driven monster, but it's driven around what would I like to see, what would I like to drink, and listening to the guests. But, first and foremost, if you believe you can do it, you can. I didn't do this with a lot of money. I didn't do this with a lot of support. It's just downright nose to the grindstone hard work, and it still is to this day. I mean, I'm a baby in this business. I've been 3.5 years now that I took over this restaurant and turned it around to what it is now, and created Maui Brewing Company out of it, and now have 2 breweries, a 7-barrel pub system in our brew pub, and our 25-barrel production house down in Lahaina Town, which is where our production runs come from. So it doesn't take a lot other than hard work. Everything else falls into place, and you just got to keep going. More people are going to tell you no than say yes. So just be prepared for that. Anybody who's ever been a broker cold calling, you can welcome no problem. So it was not too difficult that way.
So did
hard work pays off.
Did you have a background in brewing yourself? Had you ever homebrewed before?
No, I went to school at Davis, UC Davis, which is a great brewing school. I had a lot of friends who were in the brewing program. Actually, a couple of the guys who I knew from Davis are actually head brewers at different places now. Like one of my friends was over at Waimea. He was at Deschutes before, Dave Curry. And then there was Greg Peters, is a good friend of mine. He's over at Pizza Port, Solana. He's won a couple of GABF medals now too, and the company Port Brewing in Lost Abbey was Small Brewery of the Year. So it's always great to go to those festivals and be right there with these guys when they're winning medals, and we can cheer each other on. And that's where my experience came from, was just being around beer. I would never argue that I know much about brewing compared to probably 95% of the people who listen to your show. I'm a quick read, and since I came here, I've learned to brew, but I still leave that to the experts, and that's why we have a very qualified, wonderful brewmaster, Tom Kearns, who has been here since this place was its former establishment, and has carried through to where we are now. And he's the expert. I'm the idea guy and owner. So we work together as a team. Our tripod exists: my wife, myself, and our brewmaster Tom, and we make things happen together on the brew side. So. I knew I loved a good beer. I was not raised on Coors Light, which of course has its place.
Exactly.
I would never, and I don't say that to disparage them. It has its own place, but not in my house. I grew up drinking Sam Adams Double Bock, and even Gordon Biersch back in the day when it was a smaller company. It was interesting actually this year at GABF. I got to spend some time with Jim Cook, and I told him stories about how we used to send our friends. I had a friend of mine who was a year older than me in high school, so he was actually at that time 18, and we would send him into the store down in the liquor store down in Del Mar that we used to go to, and we'd send him in with just his board shorts because he had a full chest of hair, so he'd never get carded. And so we just sent him in there to buy the double box so that we could go back to the beach. And so we'd be sitting there on 19th Street in Del Mar drinking double bock. And that's the kind of teenagers we were. And it's kind of funny to think that, in college, we did have our fair share of Natural Light and Miller Lite and, whatever was free at the time. But, my roots are all in quality beers, for sure. We spent a lot of time at Soodworks in Davis. So consumption. Knowing what I like.
Well, you've got to know when the beer is good if you're going to own the place. Well, talking about good beer, your Maui Gold Summer Ale won a silver medal at the Great American Beer Festival this year. Congratulations!
Absolutely. Yeah, we're very proud of that. Everyone says they're surprised to win, and I was so shocked when that beer won. I knew it was a good beer. I knew it definitely had legs. But as an owner and working so closely with Tom, our brewmaster, it's one of those things. Nothing's ever perfect, and we both felt that one needed a little more work, but which I still believe it does. The medal is by no means an excuse to stop perfecting, but that beer is very, very unique. It's only one of its kind, actually, much like all of our beers. It's an English summer ale style, but it's brewed with Maui Gold pineapple juice, Ohia Lehua Blossom honey from Manoa over in Oahu, and Maui cane sugar and malted barley. So it's a very unique beer. It was entered in the specialty beer category, and the cane, the honey, the pineapple all impart such unique flavors to the beer that I think is why it won. It's very crisp, not sweet, even with the sugar and the honey. It had a nice heat from the alcohol side, but just a beautiful aroma and crisp beer. So we really enjoyed that beer. We'll be making that one again here soon. But we used organic malted barley, organic honey, the cane sugar, and the pineapple juice to make up, I think 58% of the fermentables were honey, cane, and pineapple, and the remaining balance was the malted barley. So.
You say it's a locally inspired English-style summer ale, but it sounds more like a Belgian than anything from England.
Sure. I think what spawned it, actually, there was an article in the New Brewer, quite a bit of time ago. I don't remember which issue it was, but each month they do a style profile. I think they just did Baltic porters. By all means, I haven't gotten my new brewery yet. all of the beer magazines, they all come here. Like when you're reading next month, I'm just reading the month before. It's amazing how long it takes to get out here. I got Celebrator from like September just the other day, but the English Summer Ale was a style that was profiled, and we had talked about doing it before, but to see it profiled, we said, hey, let's just make something wacky and let's throw some pineapple and just do it a little different. So we wouldn't ever enter it in an English Summer Ale category. It's just the fact that that's what inspired it. So that's what the recipe was modeled after, and then we broke it apart and threw in different fermentables. So that's really where the English Summer Ale comes in. So, but you are correct as far as Belgium goes with the sugars and such. Definitely a little bit bigger of a beer.
Now,
but it remained fairly light in alcohol. It was less than 6% alcohol.
Really?
So, yeah.
Now, yeah, you would think most of the time when brewers toss in all those fermentables, they're looking for something huge, but this is not big.
No, it's not very big at all by brewery standards these days, at least. Much like our IPA, I mean, our Big Swell IPA that we can off is something that is criticized sometimes for being too light, and it's a traditional American IPA, so much so that Charlie chose it as one of his top 5 American IPAs to represent that category at Brau this month in Germany. So it's a traditional style, but we need to make them drinkable. I think a lot of times traditional styles are getting stretched out and kind of making them too big. Like, who's going to make the highest alcohol? Who's going to do this? It's some competition of their own that they're trying to feed, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just something that we don't do. I mean, we have to look at our economy here, our environment. When someone comes in to drink a beer, granted, we make a 9.5% Belgian Abbey, but we usually only have it on in the winter when it's somewhat cold here, which the high 70s or so.
That's a relative thing.
Not many people are going to be drinking a 16% stout when it's 95 degrees outside.
Yeah.
So we have to make beers that are complex and bold, full of flavor, but drinkable. So our beers, we like to think they have a very distinct beginning, a journey throughout the middle, and then they have a very clear finish, something that ends. It doesn't linger, and so it begs you back for more. All of our beers are completely natural. They're unfiltered. We don't even filter our Munich Helles, our Bikini Blonde, that we can as well. That one took a gold at the North American Beer Awards too this past year. So we just like to make beers that are drinkable, and we like to think that people will drink them, and so far they have been. So we had a lot of stigma with the can when we first launched, especially here. I think a lot of the mainland, particularly Colorado, is probably the strongest state for understanding why beer in a can. I think Dale's done a phenomenal job of marketing that.
Mm-hmm.
And here we had if your beers are so great, coconut porter, best beer in the world in its category, World Beer Cup, and those types of things. Why would you put it in a can? Or cans are okay until you can bottle. I've even heard that. And, one is the bottles have to come in from here. 2, bottles are bad for the beaches and for our marinas and the environments here. 3, the can takes better care of the beer than a bottle does. It's hard fact.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you can keep the light and the oxygen away from the product, it's better. And that's exactly what a can does versus a bottle. I always argue that the can is the most appropriate vessel to transport your beverage, but it is not. And I will never argue that it's the most perfect vessel to drink your beverage from.
Well, neither is a bottle.
Any wine drinker, any spirit drinker, anybody, no one's drinking from the bottle. They're not drinking from the source. They're pouring it into the appropriate vessel to consume from. We'd like to think that at some point we'd have imperial stout glasses, Bohemian Pilsner, traditional English pub glasses, different styles of glassware for different styles of beer, just like they do with wines. There's red wine, there's white wine, not even just red, but Bordeaux and Burgundies and Cabernet Sauvignon, and different styles of glassware to consume that beverage. No one's drinking it from the bottle. So you open your beverage and you pour it into the appropriate glass and then consume it.
One of the good things about your cans is you can get them on an airplane.
Absolutely, yeah. Hawaiian Airlines, anybody flying over here. We're big supporters of Hawaiian. They're definitely large supporters of us as well. But if you ever have to have a meal on an airplane, believe me, you want it to be Hawaiian Airlines. They got the best food out there. but you can now have that food paired with a bikini blonde lager on all Trans-Pacific flights. So we're very proud that they've chosen a truly local beer to have on their plane, and they're very happy that it's canned because it fits better, it transports better, it takes less room, takes less energy to chill, and it's just all around the package is better for an airline or boats or golf courses that all support our products.
Well, the beer nerd has to ask, the Maui Gold Summer Ale, how do you balance honey and cane sugar and pineapple juice can you give any kind of an indication on, percentages or, how the balance goes? If you've got so much of your fermentables from those three things, the traditional thinking is that you're going to get sort of, you risk getting kind of an appley or a cidery, flavor from that much sugar as opposed to malt. How do you,
sure.
how
I
do you
think,
do it?
Honestly, with that beer, it was such an experiment for us that when we decided to enter it, it was kind of you're 99 yards from the end zone throwing a Hail Mary, just kind of seeing what's going to happen. And, we did some calculations up front based on, what we knew of the flavor profiles of cane sugar, which we readily use here, pineapple juice, which, pineapple juice that you get in the store versus what you get squeezed right out of the pineapple is very different. Just the quality of the juice without any dosing or pasteurization, as well as the honey itself. All of these individual components we tasted together. We tasted the honey, tasted this, and found kind of all identified what other flavors we're getting from these and what do we expect those to ferment into. Did the calculations on sugar content of each of those and what they would lend to the brew process. And just like I said at the end, it was really just we can make as many calculations as we like, but there's no way we're going to know what's happening. It's just like with our Black Pearl, which is a rum barrel-aged porter. No one else ages in a rum barrel, so we had no idea what to expect, but we said, let's try it. So we did 7-barrel batches of all of these types of things. We don't do anything huge. And I think with the home brewer, that's where everything starts. I mean, it would have been really nice to be able to do a 5-gallon batch, just for experiment. But at the same time, we don't have those capabilities necessarily here. And we felt with our calculation, the risk was not very high. If it was bad, how bad could it be, right? It really was. As far as percentages of honey versus pineapple and those, I don't really remember off the top of my head.
But you did some experimenting, and you actually blended those ingredients unfermented first and just kind of did a taste test?
Yeah, and just to see kind of what you're getting. If they tasted bad to start, who knows what it's going to taste like later. But, the pineapple juice, it is literally, when you go to pick it up, from the way we get it at least, is a 55-gallon drum that they screw press. There's a big screw press above this pump that screw presses all of the pineapple. The entire thing is it's skinned and cored, but the whole pineapple just gets pressed right into this barrel. So we get the pulp, we get any sort of wild yeast that might be in there. Nothing's dosed, no aseptic, no pasteurization. It's just crazy. It's the most amazing juice ever. And we actually have to. We usually get a cup of out of it each, but we try not to take too much because we want to use it for the brewing. But it's just the whole smell of it, the aroma is just amazing. The honey, it's the Ohia blossom honey. It's a very smoky, bold honey. I don't know any honey that it would compare to in the mainland. It's just full of flavor, and so we really like to find flavors that we think go together and calculate from there. But it really was, like I said, a Hail Mary. A very unique beer that we like to just experiment with.
So where are these ingredients added into the brew pot or into the secondary, or how do you treat those?
Well, actually, not so much into the mash tun. None of that. None of those hold up very well in there. But in the kettle, we added a majority of the cane sugar because it's crystal and it needs to be broken down. Also, we added a bulk of the honey there, as well as we added some pineapple juice there. I think in the entire batch, if you wanted to break it down, again, because I haven't broken it down to small batch portion, but 7 barrels, we did 50 pounds of cane sugar, 60 pounds of honey, and 15 gallons of pineapple juice.
Mm.
And the rest was malted barley.
And you can hear the calculators out there right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember how much barley was even in it. I think it was somewhere around 300 pounds, and I believe most of it was. I think there was some German two-row Pilsner malt, and then which we use for our blonde, and then there was some crisp as well, Marisada.
And I would assume that the hops, that you didn't want to overdo the hops on this.
Exactly. And it's escaping me what hops we used in that actually right now, but it was very, very lightly hopped, but just for balance.
Now, you also do something that I believe I was able to taste at the Great American Beer Festival last year, which is your coconut porter. And that, you think of a Mounds bar, when you think of chocolately porter and, the coconut, those just seem like a really wonderful pairing. Put on your beer geek hat there and tell us about that beer and what you're going for and how you achieved it in the brewing process.
Sure. Well, the coconut porter is probably the beer we're most well known for. It's taken a couple of gold medals at this point, one even at the World Beer Cup in 2006 in the urban spice beer category. It is definitely a very unique beer. I love porters. I've always liked the darker, the bigger beers, big by flavor, not necessarily high alcohol. This is a traditional robust porter with hand-toasted coconut added. That is literally how simple that beer is. It's roughly 5.7% alcohol by volume. What we do is, in every stage of the process, let me back up for a minute. When we brew with fruit, we use the fruit. I've had a lot of people ask me where I get my extract or my essence for any number of our fruit beers that we do, which I'll run through in a second. But, on our Tropo, our golden ale with lilikoi, which is passion fruit, you ask us, where do you get your essence? Or what coconut extract do you use? Or those types of things. We don't use them. There is no such thing and nothing permitted in our brewery that resembles a dropper full of flavor. Everything is, if it's got coconut in the name, it's coconut, the actual chips. If it's pineapple, it's fresh squeezed pineapple juice, probably less than an hour old. Those types of things. We use the actual fruit that has no preservatives, no pasteurization, simply pureed or actual fruit going in. So, that I throw that out there because it's important to know that the ingredients that we're using, the reasons we get the true flavors of what the fruit is because we actually use them. Extracts and essences, I'm not saying that they're bad, they're just not, there's just no fit for us with those. With our plethora of fruits that are available here in Hawaii, we want to take from our environment and integrate those into the unique beers we do.
Yeah, you're lucky to have that in your backyard.
Absolutely, we are. The coconut is, we use coconut chips, which I'm sure shredded coconut is probably readily available in most everybody's area. We toast it ourselves so that we get a certain level of toasting there, and that helps us with the head retention as well as brings out different flavors than, say, coconut milk or coconut juice. So when you're thinking about it, it's not like raw coconut. It's toasted coconut porter, I guess would even be a more appropriate name. But it brings a nice nuttiness to the beer that we really enjoy. But it's added in the mash. It's added in the boil. Actually, not so much the boil anymore. We actually do it through a hop back now, and then we also add it in the bright room for finishing. It steeps on coconut, so kind of a dry hopping with coconut, if you will.
Wow.
So it's done at every process. By no means is this beer all about the coconut. Most people who try it might not even know that it's coconut until maybe even the finish. They might not even pick it out. Usually they'll be tasting it and saying, what's that flavor in the background? I'm just not sure. And then they finally, when you mention coconut, they're like, that's it. And it's none of our beers are meant to be all about the fruit. They're meant to be their traditional style, twisted a little bit with a fruit, adding another dimension of flavor, I always like to say, particularly on the coconut porter. It's simply a robust porter, but then you realize there's a whole extra layer, another dimension of flavor that's there that comes from the coconut. And that's what it's meant to do, is just kind of give you that extra little bit that's unique. and that's how that beer is done.
So it's all the way from the mash tun into the serving tank, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. The only place it doesn't get added is in the fermenter.
Huh.
So it's, I'd just say, we toast the coconut to a nice deep golden brown, even toasting across all of it. We add a portion in the mash. We add a bulk of it through the hop back, and then we let it steep on coconut as well. I mean, to give you an idea, get the calculators out. We have a 20-barrel batch, which we're running right now down in Lahaina, and that is approximately, for the whole process, including the serving tank, is going to be just a little over 200 pounds of coconut.
Mm.
So it's by no means a cheap beer to produce. So don't get scared when you see the prices on the 6-packs or 4-packs, actually, that'll be hitting the mainland. Don't judge us on price. Judge us on the quality of the beers, and know that when you're buying Hawaiian products, you're going to pay a little more. I think everybody knows that. But don't judge us compared to the other Hawaiian brands, because you're not paying for fake local. You're buying the real thing.
Well, hopefully one day we'll be able to see Maui Gold Summer Ale and Coconut Porter here in Northwest Arkansas, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Well, what we are working towards, too, is the potential to be able to sell online. There are some states that will allow us to do that. We just have to get Hawaii to cooperate first.
Mm.
Along those lines, the summer ale may become a seasonal at some point. It may even be just, like Harpoon does a great job of the 100-barrel series. We might do something similar to that to release just a specialty beer, much like Gordon and 1050 Stout were for Oscar Blues at one point. Just Gordon just had been a limited release, hand-labeled cans. We may do something like that. But our next seasonal, actually, which will actually be our first seasonal, I should say, that's done for distribution, is going to be our Mana wheat, which is actually a Belgian wheat brewed with Maui Gold pineapple.
Oh.
So that's a beautiful beer. We use the pineapple there as well. There are others out there doing Lilikoi wheat, or made with passion fruit. But we figure let's do something different. Let's, one, we'll make it here, and two, we'll just use something local from the island. So, which is the pineapple. We have the best pineapple in the world. It's low acid, high sugar, just a beautiful pineapple. Anybody who's had Maui Gold pineapple, they know what I'm talking about.
Well, I have a feeling that the mail orders will go up a little bit for the pineapple.
I would think so. Yeah. Well, what I would say is, if you keep an eye on our website, we've got a great website, a lot of information up there. I handle criticism well, so feel free to shoot me an email. Try not to call my cell phone, because somehow it's out there on the internet.
Oh, my God.
At 4 o'clock in the morning, my time, because remember,
no.
we're 6 hours behind. If you call me, though, at a normal hour, I'm happy to talk to you within reason, but email works best for me, and then just if you have a question or looking for something, shoot me an email or sign up for our mailing list on the website, and we won't spam you. We'll just let you know when something new's coming out or when we are capable of doing online shipping, those types of things, so just to be informed if you're looking for our products. We run, last year we did 500 barrels. We by no means are a big company. This year, with our first full fiscal year with our brewery, with our production system down in Lahaina, which just came online in March, we've only been distributing that long. And up until August, it was only on Maui, not even the whole state. We've only been distributing the entire state of Hawaii since August. So we're very young in the distribution side. I think this year we'll probably pump out somewhere around 2,400 barrels. Probably target about 4,500 for next year. So we're growing very rapidly, but we're by no means a huge brewery that is putting out a ton of product to ship everywhere. We're focusing on our market here. We will be expanding to the mainland. There's no question about that. But we're going to make the beer here, and that's something that's important to us.
Well, I hope that you don't let success go to your head, and that you'll keep your brewing philosophy and keep making the good beers.
Absolutely. I've many times I think the way I could put it simply is just as long as I'm in charge and there's a breath in my body, the beer will always be made in Hawaii.
Excellent.
That's important to us. So, and I love the community here. I love the people. I love just living here is where I want to be. and we're fortunate to be able to do something we love in a place that we love. So.
Well, outstanding. I sure appreciate your time, and I appreciate all the good information.
You bet. If I missed anything, feel free to call me back. Happy to hop on anytime. And yeah, I mean, our beers, like I said, what our whole mantra behind our beers is what we say is handcrafted ales and lagers brewed with aloha. That is our trademark mission statement. That's what we do. We have a central focus around that, and we feel that if we're complying and meeting a mission statement, then we're doing a good job with everything else. Because we have a mix of both ales and lagers, and we just brewed with aloha is brewed with love and care and respect, warmth. It's really aloha means a lot more than just hello and goodbye, and that's just what we do. So traditional styles twisted a little bit to be made Maui style.
You're sounding a little bit like Dogfish now, so.
Yeah, well, Sam is my idol, my hero. If he hears this, I'm sure he'll get a chuckle out of that, because I joke with him about that all the time. But he's a good friend of our brewery as well. Actually, I've got a calendar appointment to go send beer to them later. We do a little beer exchange every now and again. The guys over at Falling Rock Tap House in Denver, we're mixing coconut porter with Sam's chocolate vodka from Dogfish.
Oh.
And it was a shot of chocolate vodka in a pint of coconut porter. And normally I'm not big on the whole mixing spirits with beer, but wow, combination. It was amazing. And that's something that I think we should look into more. But yeah, the Dogfish guys are great. They do a phenomenal job. I was very proud to see Midas Touch win in their category. And I think it was one in the honey beer, correct? Something along that. But that's a great beer if anybody out there hasn't had it. It's just like what you'd expect from Sam, something very unique that's going to twist your mind about what beer is. And he does a phenomenal job of that. So I was very impressed. When our Maui Gold Summer Ale won silver underneath the gold being Judgment Day from Lost Abbey, which is also a great beer. So we're Tommy Arthur is a good friend of ours as well. So we're in good company, and like I said, if we can call them our friends, and we're happy. So
excellent.
I respect them all immensely. They're far more experienced than I have, and I'm proud to be able to call on them for advice, because I definitely have to do that at times. So.
Well, excellent. Again, I appreciate your time, Garrett, and I look forward to talking to you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Aloha.
Thanks again to Garrett Marrero. My wife and I went to Maui way back in 1993, I believe it was, and it's an incredibly beautiful place. It'd be great to go again and sip some delicious brews on a beach somewhere. That may be a good excuse for research for this podcast. Well, next week I'm planning to talk to Chris Colby about reiterated mashing, running wort through the grains 2 or even 3 times to get high-gravity beers. Now, if we could only run Mountain Dew through the grains 2 or 3 times, then we'd be getting somewhere, I think. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to James at basicbrewing.com, or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com, and please don't forget to tell us where you're from. And don't forget, we need your homebrew horror stories, those days when brewing goes wrong, and what you've learned from it. Also, the 2008 Brewers Logbooks are here. Check them out on the site, and look for the new low-tech lagering and decoction mashing DVD here in the next few days. And while you're on our site, you can check out our original DVDs. You can find great pricing on combos. In our first DVD, Introduction to Extract Home Brewing, we walk you through the extract brewing process step by step from boiling to bottling. And in Basic Brewing, Stepping into All Grain, we take you through the all grain process from milling your grain to collecting your wort. And you can see a listing of the fine folks across the country who sell our DVDs on basicbrewing.com. And if there isn't a vendor in your area, you can order it from us online. Remember, we also have shirts and hats, including our Go Forth and Flocculate shirt. And also thanks to everybody who's continued to click on our Amazon.com link. We appreciate the support there. Our featured products this week that were purchased through the link are Black & Decker DCM 18 Brew & Go Coffee Maker, I've got one of those. Works pretty good. And On Guard 86606-6 Economy Black PVC Rubber Steel Toe 16-inch High Work Boot. Men's size 6. I don't have one of those. Thanks again, everybody. And remember, I can't tell who bought what, so no worries. Just click on the Amazon logo on our site the next time you feel like Amazon shopping, and we appreciate your support, especially because Christmas time's coming up. That's all until next week. Till then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by our buddy Kelly Dodson down in Austin, who also did our logo. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. So long.